This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Bruschi.
I want to talk about a very bizarre thing that we've been seeing in the reporting of the Bryan Kohberger murder case of the Idaho 4, because there's a lot of things starting to spread online that seem very bizarre, and I'm not finding a lot of reputable sources for it, but every now and then you see a major publication say something about it. What I'm talking about is the Daily Mirror, which is a UK publication. They're covering the Kohberger story. And what is true about what's happening with Bethany Funk, one of the surviving roommates, is that she's being subpoenaed to come to the hearing on June 28th. The private investigator that was hired by the defense says that she may have some exculpatory evidence to present that could possibly exonerate their client. Richard Batoni is his name, and he subpoenaed her. According to the affidavit, and this is where it gets really tricky and I think might just be bad reporting, it says that she allegedly witnessed a naked man run through a rear sliding door. Now, I saw the affidavit that was presented for the subpoena. There is nothing on that affidavit that says anything about a naked man going through a rear sliding door. Number one, she lived on the first floor of the house. And the Mirror seems to be confused on who came face-to-face with the alleged killer, because it also doesn't say that in the affidavit. We know the other roommate allegedly came face-to-face with the alleged killer with the ski mask on and thought that it looked very similar to Kohberger. But the defense in the private investigator is saying that she's alleged to have heard or saw things which could clear the suspect, as Mr. Batoni argued, will be a crucial witness. Mr. Kohberger's lawyers claim Ms. Funk has exculpatory information that is material and necessary to the alleged killer's case. If she refuses to appear, she could face a potential fine of $500 or up to 25 days in jail. I'm really trying to figure out where this naked man thing comes from. Is it just idle speculation from a reporting agency? And I hesitate to call the Mirror a reporting agency because it's kind of like a tabloid. But to say something like that, to publish something like that, is very bizarre. With me is Scott Roeder of Evidence Room. Scott, what's your take on this thus far?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if that is what the investigator is talking about or not. My take on it, as I read the pleading from the Batoni guy, the investigator for the Kohberger defense, about the exculpatory information.
Yeah.
Now, it might have something to do with her recollection being different than the other surviving roommate, talking about seeing the man with the bushy eyebrows, or about the nature of the timing of things. I think this might all have something to do, frankly, with who called 911. We still don't know who called 911. So if the investigator found or is compelling, and I believe the court is going to agree to bring her in for that hearing, there must be something there that the defense feels like is going to help Bryan Kohberger, whether it's an inconsistency or whether there's some illumination on who called 911, or if her testimony conflicts with the testimony of the other roommate that says, she saw a man with the bushy eyebrows. It's got to do with something regarding that, or potentially could have something to do with behavior of people in the house separate from or prior to the attacks that may lead to motive of someone else. But I think it's a very bold move by the investigator and by the Kohberger defense to do this, because it could blow up in their face if that information is not exculpatory, because the judge is not going to the role of the judge here, they have to protect innocent people involved. Mm-hmm. And if this is just some kind of a ploy, it'll come down hard on the Kohberger defense. So, my feeling is if they're going out this far on a ledge to try to bring her forcibly out of state for their benefit, for what they're calling exculpatory information, I would, these are serious people on his defense. And you would think it's more than just, throwing darts at a wall and seeing if they could, hit a bullseye. There's got to be something there substantial. And if there's not something there substantial that's exculpatory for the Kohberger defense, I think that the lawyers and the investigator will, feel the penalty of that from the judge in some way or fashion.
What would the point be of having her come back if there isn't something very, very valuable to them? Is it a distraction? Is it, trying to sway, I don't know, reporting, media? I mean, just the general public on this, because they still, obviously there's no jury that's been picked yet, and pretty much everything has been pretty damning about Kohberger that we've heard thus far. But to put a seed of doubt, I don't understand what the reasoning would be. Plus, there's an interesting thing here with this: a naked man exiting through the sliding glass door, unless he was standing somewhere or she was rather standing somewhere on the second floor or outside during the murders, which doesn't make any sense. Her bedroom being on the first floor was facing the front of the house, not the back. So, I mean, it throws a lot of things up in the air that just don't add up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it calls into question what was going on inside of that house prior to the murders happening.
Yeah.
And if there was things going on inside of that house prior to the murders happening that the Kohberger defense feels puts the deceased, the victims, in some kind of a light that, could call into question, their,
credibility?
Credibility, possibly credibility, their moral standing, something like that. But there's got to be something that, whether it's a legitimate claim or not, I don't know. Nobody knows. But it's a bold move for them to do this. And if they're going through this trouble to get her to come in against her will, they think that they have something. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Dylan Mortensen, who was the other surviving roommate, claimed that she saw a man with bushy eyebrows, presumed to be Kohberger, inside the home, leaving in a rather rushed manner. I believe he was also saying that there was like a face mask or something on as well. So it made it even more difficult to recognize the individual. This is the first of the naked man thing. And this is, I think, highlighting a little bit about the amount of reporting that goes on out there and where the information is coming from, because they're just saying, well, they're not even saying a source. They're just the source that was claiming this, the news outlet that was saying it, just almost states it as fact. However, we have to remember that this news outlet is also a bit of a tabloid rag in the UK. So it's
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, the Mirror is famous for their reporting on spectacular UFO sightings and conspiracy theories and things like that. And hey, listen, we live in a strange world where sometimes the tabloid media gets it more right than the legacy media. So I don't want to discount them from their reputation, but at the same time, I haven't seen any mention of that other than
Yeah.
What you've just mentioned.
Yeah, the Mirror seems to be the only one reporting on that. I just wanted to bring that up with you and some other folks. We're going to have Jennifer on tomorrow to talk about. I'm curious to get her thoughts on it because it's very confusing. It's very bizarre in a case that already is very confusing and very bizarre, which I think lends it to be almost easier for us to take a listen to that or hear that and go, well, I guess that's possible. But as far as it being legitimate, I guess we're going to have to wait to find out. I know that they have now added more to the state's prosecution of Kohberger, which in some way or shape or form, all it would take would be one of the new prosecutors to request a grand jury for something like that to be convened, which may speed things up a little bit or at least get us to a point of where Kohberger could make his plea earlier than June 26.
Yeah, Tony, the one thing that this kind of reminds me of, and, I do typically homicide cases, but from time to time I've been involved on, rape cases and domestic violence cases. And one of the strategies that lawyers use when defending somebody, say, for example, accused of rape, is to call into account the of the victim, of the rape victim, about their prior promiscuity and so on and so forth. And this smells like something like that, where the Kohberger defense might be looking to muckrake the credibility of not only the surviving roommates, but potentially muckraking the credibility of the deceased. And they've got to be very careful when doing that from a legal standpoint, because that could backfire dramatically. But I guess at this point, they really don't have much to lose, do they?
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Bruschi.
I think very well put. Yeah, there ain't too much to lose at this point. If you like the show, be sure to press subscribe wherever you're downloading podcasts so you don't miss any breaking updates and discussions on the cases that we're following for you right here. I'm Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.